Oh, here we go. Okay, we do. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call to order the June 10th, 5:30 Finance meeting at this point in time. And at this time, I will yield to Chairman Keller, who has a long list of stuff tonight. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So item one for discussion, we have been requested to have this removed from our agenda. So is that going to take a
Take a motion.
motion to remove, motion to remove? Any discussion on removing item one? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Item two is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to enter a lease agreement with Brybeck Properties for land construction of a public parking area for the downtown city of Russellville. Mayor, what can you tell us about item two?
This is downtown parking, which is north on Commerce. This would be directly across Commerce from Bates Distributing. We had submitted a contract earlier. There were a couple of requests that the property owner had, and we were able to work through that with Mr. Skelton, their attorney, and they have since signed the contract, and we're good to go with it. We're ready to sign. So,
Is Prairie Creek going to affect that at all?
no, right now we're going to be able to do a certain part of that. I believe we're going to do 38 or 39 parking spots prior to Prairie Creek completion, and once Prairie Creek is completion, we can finish the rest of the parking lot. So we're going to do as much as we can right now.
Mayor, one of the items on the amendment to the contract was to make improvements to the water on an adjacent property. Do we have?
That was already in the plans. We had already, there was already a 1-inch water line that had been supplied, and we're actually, they had asked for a 2-inch water, but we were already, during the dig project, putting a fire hydrant on that property, and that was satisfactory. It was already in our plans, and that was satisfactory to the Brybeck property.
Great. Thank you. Are there any motions on item two?
Make a motion to forward with approval.
Okay. Any more discussion on item two? All those in favor of moving item two to the full council with the recommendation of approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item two is forwarded. Item three is consideration of a resolution for the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to enter into a purchase contract with Kelly Black for the excess property located at 718 South Englewood Avenue and for payment of a property tax bill. This is the one that we talked about, was it a month or so ago?
Yes, the one that's at 8th and Glenwood by the Russellville Connected Trail System, and Mr. Newman was able to work that out with the adjacent property owner, and if we're just, I think it's $138 or somewhere in that ballpark, if I remember off the top of my head, that we're able to purchase the part that would be potentially beneficial to us, and the adjacent, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The survey that we initially drafted up the information that was in the Pope County records, and we had our GIS identify the best of our ability of the property ownership. So the property adjacent, which is the junior auxiliary, there was some initial drawings that indicated there was a gap between those two. We retained a local surveyor because this is a permanent document, and they did their research, went back through all the surveys and identified that there is not a gap between the property adjacent to it. So they cleaned that up, and the only transaction that we would be performing would be to purchase the property that we originally obtained for easements for a trail.
That would
and
be
ultimately
beneficial to
drain.
us, yes.
That'd be beneficial to us. We're already maintaining that property, and it's separated by a fence through that process. So the only transaction of property ownership would be from Ms. Black to the city, and
Yep.
the adjacent property is no longer involved.
Yeah, okay.
So nothing else? So we don't have to move fences? We don't have
No.
to?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
And we don't have any other future plans for that specific property at this time, or is it just,
The property is totally consumed with a trail
already got the
easement,
trail
and then
and stuff?
the ditch itself is
Yeah.
on the other portion of the easement that's being encumbered. So
Okay,
that's the property, and that's remaining property taxes that she's offered for us to purchase.
Motion to forward with approval.
Okay, there's been a motion to forward to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any further discussion on item 3? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 3 is forwarded. Item 4 is an appropriation from the 2021 Sales Tax Capital Fund 07 in the sum of $27,758.50 for canine officer replacement. Move that we forward item 4 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion? All those in favor of forwarding item 4?
wait, I have a question. Chief, is this an additional or a replacement?
Replacement.
We're retiring one.
I guess
How-
that says
How long does
replacement.
a canine work?
How long's the
long
lifespan of a
what-
canine's work?
Is the one being replaced going to be well taken care of as well? Okay.
Yes. He'll stay
Does
with
he
his
get a
hand.
retirement like the,
Any other discussion on item 4? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding item 4 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 4 is forwarded. Item 5 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to accept the lowest responsible bid and to sign a construction agreement and associated paperwork with Hard Rock Construction for the improvement of the Old Post Gatehouse at the soccer complex to include 2 new curbed parking additions, increase parking capacity by 81 spaces, install 300 feet of new walkable sidewalk and wheelchair ramp, 4 new and 2 rebuilt accessible ADA parking spaces, repair existing asphalt, incidental items such as thermoplastic, handicap parking signs, trash cans, and whatnot. Move we forward item number 5 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on item 5?
what's the difference between a walkable sidewalk and a regular sidewalk?
I think it's a word on a paper.
Okay. It's just capitalized, so I'm assuming that that is a,
You don't have to skip on this one, you can just walk. Okay, hearing no more discussion on item 5, all those in favor of forwarding item 5 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 5 is forwarded. Oh, I'm sorry, item 5A. Item 5A is the appropriation for 5 in the amount of $381,860.38 from the Economic Development Capital Fund 27 to fund the improvements in item 5. I move we send item 5A to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on 5A? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 5 is forward, or 5A is forwarded. Item 6 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to enter in agreement for professional services for the trail lighting improvement, taps trail light improvement with, was it HTW and Associates and for other purposes. Move we forward item 6 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on item 6?
Yeah, can we get an explanation?
Yes, sir. This consultant contract is for electrical services. The city received a transportation alternatives grant for sidewalk trail connectivity from Schoolhouse Trail to El Paso. The city Public Works will be doing the design services for the general engineering for civil portion in-house. We do not have those capabilities for electrical design, so this contract's just for the electrical design of that.
What was the total amount for the grant for this project? Do you remember?
I believe we've received $500,000 for the grant for the total project.
Right.
Yes.
And so there'll just be a little bit of that goes to this, I would assume?
Yes, sir. Well, that's the construction aspect of the
Right.
grant, not the
Yeah.
design services.
Yeah.
So this is the trail from El Paso to behind Kroger?
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion on item 6? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding item 6 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed say no. Item 6 is forwarded. Item 7 is consideration of a resolution with the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to enter into an agreement with Hard Rock Construction for the improvements to West Main Street pedestrian improvements to installing 0.81 miles of 5-foot sidewalk, assuming that that's also walkable. Along with 3 foot of green space along the north side of Arkansas Highway 64, which is also West Main Street. I move we forward item 7 to the full council with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Any discussion on item 7?
Do we have any idea what the what the estimated costs on that would be for that sidewalk?
Yeah, we've already have a contract, the price, isn't it in the packet? Or no? Yeah.
Yes, sir. If you, in your packet, we've taken taken bids on that.
Yes.
So the construction contract is about $582,000 for that section. We have contingencies and others in your packet.
Sweet. So just want to make that clear, West Main sidewalk project.
Yes.
Yeah.
From Walgreens to
Just
Joplin.
past, yeah, just
No.
past.
From Joplin.
Joplin all the way-
west all the way
Past the movie theater to that
to
little apart.
Carthage, yes.
Okay.
Did you say 582?
What?
What was the price again? 582,000?
582? 582 for the price. Yes, 500. Yeah, for the construction.
Is there any other discussion on item 7? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding item 7 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 7 is forwarded. Item 8 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to enter in an agreement for the pedestrian crossing at South Arkansas Avenue and 2nd Street for improvements. Then this resolution contract will be with Barrett's and Associates to provide professional services to include traffic signal updates, install pedestrian push buttons, and many other things. I move we forward item 8 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on item 8?
I have a question. How long will this, what do you think the estimated time would be? Because I'm excited about this project because it is a area that needed to be addressed. So I'm excited about it. Is this several months? Is it a year? Because I know we have to deal with the highway
Yeah, I
department.
would anticipate several months for the design and RDOT permitting process, so it goes Little
Yeah.
Rock back and forth to get that design, and then we'll go through the same process, advertise bid, and then if you're talking about ultimate construction, I'd say construction maybe a year from now.
Yeah, okay.
In that time period, but hopefully a little quicker if possible.
I think it'll take as long to get the lights, the traffic lights, as
I do not know the schedule because this initial discussion with the consultant would be replacing some of the light poles themselves, so we would have to order that, and yeah, it could be months on that, getting that material, so definitely cannot speculate that.
Hopefully sometime next year.
Yes, sir, I would expect we should be in construction next year and hopefully complete early spring if possible.
Motion to send to the full council with recommendation for approval.
Okay. It's now been motioned twice to send to the full council with a recommendation of approval. We are really serious about this one, y'all. All those in favor of sending item 8 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Item 8 is forwarded. Item 9 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to enter into an agreement with for the purchase of a Dodge Ram 5500 4x4 rescue unit to include radios, tool mounts, and for other purposes. Item 9A is the appropriation from the 2021 Sales Tax Capital Fund 07 in the amount of $247,500 for the purchase of that vehicle. Move we forward to item 9 and 9A to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on items 9 or 9A?
Yeah, is chief or whoever, is this something that was in the vehicle plan that we did, I don't know, 7, 8? I don't know. It is in that plan?
The original rescue that we bought in 1997, we sold it in 2017. It hit its 20-year lifespan, and we did not have one for a certain time and put it on a smaller squad vehicle, an F-350, and it's a 2001. And we're going to repurpose that for a brush response only at Station 2. So, and this is going to allow us to really enhance our special operations capabilities for trenching and shore rescue and things like that, so for building collapse. So finally able to expand what we were able to provide. The normal price on one is about $800,000 for a custom rescue, and then one for a commercial is about $400,000. And then what we're doing is buying a reconditioned box and putting it on a brand new chassis. So pretty significant cost savings there for us. It just didn't make a lot of sense to spend that kind of money on a brand new one. It's a repurposed box, and we're putting stuff in it, so.
Thank you for your stewardship.
Any more discussion on items 9 or 9A? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding 9 and 9A to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Items 9 and 9A are forwarded. Item 10 is consideration of a resolution for the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to apply for the Arkansas Community Assistance Grant. Said grant funds will be used at Shiloh Park for repairs and upgrades to include replacing existing restrooms and septic systems, adding additional parking, and resurfacing and restriping the existing lot. Resurfacing the tennis courts and the turf for 2 of the ball fields. I move we send item 10 to the full council with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Any discussion on item 10?
Yes. We're resurfacing those tennis courts. I want to, while we have whoever's going to do the tennis courts, to do the city park tennis courts as well. I just want to make sure, I mean, it doesn't have to be part of this grant, but while they're here, we grab them. Okay, good. That's great news. Thank you. All right.
Any other discussion on item 10? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding item 10 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Item 10 is forwarded. Item 11 is appropriation from the grant carryover, general fund carryover balance in the sum of $26,686.12 to be used to fund the Civic Plus add-ons to include a chatbot, C-Click Fix, a mobile app, and an agenda clerk. I move that we forward item 11 to the full council with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on item 11?
What are these things?
Pacific Plus,
Yeah, so-
you're redesigning your website. You're redesigning your website, and chatbot is an addition to the website which is an AI chatbot on the website that can actually answer questions real time for people. See-Click Fix is going to be part of a mobile app that if you are driving down the road, you see a pothole, you can actually take a picture of it and it will and you could send it to us. It'll geolocate and tell our people where to go. If there's a stop or if there's a light out in your neighborhood, or if you've got a tree down in a storm, it will actually send it into real time for us. And that's along with the mobile app.
Man, we're high speed now.
We're something.
Man. Now, will energy actually go fix the streetlights though?
Hey, hold up, let's slow down.
Yeah.
We don't need AI to replace the city council here, so let's,
What about agenda clerk?
A mobile clerk is something that explain it to me, I'm sorry. You actually upload your stuff, and it's also part of, MuniCode is going to be part of this too, correct?
Yeah.
MuniCode is going to be part of
So
this.
basically, you upload everything into it, and it can make your agenda and your packet, and then after we're done with ordinances and resolutions and I scan them in, they go in and they will categorize, like, all of say the jogging trails or the running trails. If I put an ordinance in there, a resolution for that, it'll stick it to all of them from way past when. They'll all be they're categorized.
it'll definitely make searching easier on the website.
Yeah, MuniCode will help.
If you are a community member and you want to know any information on our website, you can search. And 'cause right now, it's really difficult to see, like, anybody wanted to search about the convention center, which we get a lot of discussion online about the convention center. If we had this now, you could see that all of that started many, 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 many years ago and was now, you'd be able to follow the history of that pretty easily.
Any more discussion on item 11? Sorry, hearing none. All those in favor of forwarding item 11 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Item 11 is forwarded. Item 12 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to accept the lowest responsible bid and to sign a landscaping agreement and associated paperwork with Dandler Landscaping Management for the 2025 landscape maintenance contract.
Where's this at?
Downtown, El Paso, and any of our roundabouts. Did I correctly state that?
It's not does it include all the new beds downtown?
Yes.
It includes the beds that were complete, which was south of the highway. And so as the project nears completion, we would be coming back to amend this, or depends on the size and discussion with this contractor on how to approach that. So that's what this contract is for, because it was not complete, so we couldn't do everything at once.
Okay, I move item 12 be forwarded to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any more discussion on item 12? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding item 12 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Item 12 is forwarded. Item 13 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to execute a temporary access agreement to facilitate the construction of the sidewalk. Just the sidewalk?
Mr. Newman?
Just the,
Yeah.
is it also walkable?
Yes, sir. It can be walkable, hopefully after completion, that's the intent. So in the process of obtaining easements for construction, which is actually item number 15, you'll see in front of you in a few moments, for the intersection improvements, Knoxville and Main, push-button signals and such. The property to the southeast, corporation required execution by the city or the mayor before they would sign the temporary access agreement. So that is why we're bringing this here. Typically, for temporary access easements, that's not necessary, But through this negotiation and easement document, this was the ultimate agreement that was reviewed by the city attorney. So Trey's looked at this and has reviewed that also.
So this item is connected to the East Main Street, Knoxville intersection improvements?
Yes.
on
Yeah,
15?
it's
Okay.
connected to item 15.
Okay.
What is the estimated completion on that one, do you know?
The project, once, probably within 4 months, because we've gone out to bid on these two, I'm talking about 15 right now as part of item 13, but we've gone out to bid. That is one of the items that you'll be, we're asking for approval for resolution to move forward. Takes about a month to get the contracts executed, pre-construction, and optimistically 4 months, depending on time for equipment order and delivery. So that may delay that, and that would be the only reason.
That include my signal box?
Yes, sir, that includes your signal box, yes, sir. And on that, I can discuss here or there, but
No.
that was
Okay.
damaged previously, and this, to move it out of the line of sight, and it's been damaged more than once, we had to send this project to Little Rock for review and approval, and that's what delayed
Okay.
the timing of that. So we could ultimately, once we receive that permit approval, we've advertised that project.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other discussion on item 13? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding item 13 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Item 13 is forwarded. Items 14 and 14A. Item 14 is consideration of an ordinance amending ordinance number 2460, the City Administration Code, Article 3, Chapters 5 and 8, to transfer code enforcement from the Planning and Development Department to the Fire Department. And item 14A is all the line item transfers from transferring code enforcement to, from Planning and Development to Fire Department in the budget. Move we forward items 14 and 14A to the full council with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Any discussion on items 14 and 14A?
How is this going to be, when it comes to, like, having code enforcement there at planning and development? Sometimes planning and development needs to communicate with code enforcement, I'm assuming? to
Likewise,
ask
but I mean,
questions, and vice versa?
Well, but also, I think fire building safety they do a lot of enforcement too, and I think this is going to, with our bringing in a new planning director right now, I think it's a good time to move this over.
Okay.
All right, right now, as of right now, we have no code enforcement. We lost our code enforcement today to a situation I can't discuss, but yeah, so we are in process of hopefully hiring some code enforcement here shortly, so.
Will code enforcement personnel move to the central fire station, or will they stay at Public Works?
That's a,
This is all pretty new.
Yes.
We do have some rooms, some build out we can do. Mr. George, there is some overlap. I mean, we in fire building safety, we do code enforcement, but it's typically state code, some ordinance stuff. Code enforcement per se in City of Russellville is mostly zoning and ordinance. So there's overlap, but they're pretty mobile. They spend a lot of time in the field, and then office times pretty much, reports, things like that in the software. So there's a lot of similarities.
I remember years ago when I feel like there was a reason that we moved them. And I just, if you guys want them there, I don't want everybody to get along. You know what I mean? So.
Well, right now, there's no one to go anywhere.
Yeah. So.
Is this going to, by moving code enforcement over to the fire department and under building the building official, is that going to allow for some, like, cross-functional training between whoever comes in as
So-
code enforcement with?
So I do want you to note, I think that there is potential for cross-training a code enforcement officer to do inspections. That's been done before. One thing I do want to clarify is we're not taking more duties as fire marshals and building inspectors. What we're doing is we're taking under our umbrella the positions. But yes, I can see cross-training, which we've done in fire and building, as our fire marshals can go out and do building inspections and vice versa. So that's worked well.
Mr. Chairman, the Personnel Committee met tonight and will be bringing voted to approve this, to bring it to council for full approval for this move, so,
For next Thursday?
yeah.
Awesome. Is there any more discussion on items 14 or 14A? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding items 14 and 14A to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Items 14 and 14A are forwarded. Item 15 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to accept the lowest responsible bid and to sign a construction agreement and associated paperwork with All Services Electric for the East Main Street and Knoxville intersection improvements that we discussed with item 13. Move we forward item 15 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Is there any discussion on item 15? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding item 15 to the full council, please say aye. All those opposed say no.
Oh, Waterloo.
I'm sorry. All those opposed say no. Okay, item 15 is forwarded. Forgot we were handed item 15A as a line item transfer in accordance with ordinance number 1783 in the amount of $105,000. Mayor, what can you tell us about this? Is this just for funding that item 15, the pedestrian improvements?
No, this is this is Waterloo, is it not?
Yeah.
Mayor, this is a line item from our account that we had budgeted for
Yeah.
Waterloo.
Yeah, and then we're
Waterloo
just transferring
project.
money over.
From Waterloo to the US 64 East pedestrian improvements. There was a little shortfall because we budgeted that money about 2 years ago for the East Main. The East Main, it took a little while for the signalization permit to get approved and small quantities because we had to break it out, so we had a shortfall. So this was a transfer, so no adjustment to the overall budget. It's just transferring from one project to the other where we had adequate, the Waterloo job was under budget. It will I'm not going to steal Ken's thunder, but we're relocating utilities as we speak on that project, so we know pretty firm what that cost is, and we had adequate funds in the account.
Okay, we send item 15A to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any more discussion on item 15A, the line item transfer for $105,000? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item 15A is forwarded. Item 16 and 16A. Item 16 is consideration of a resolution waiving the formal bidding requirements for the purchase of 18 tasers and supporting apparatus for the service, and services for the Russellville Police Department. And item 16A is the appropriation from the 2021 Sales Tax Capital Fund 07 in the sum of $103,000, or $186,000.24. Move we forward items 16 and 16A to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Is there any discussion?
What is the reason for wanting to forego the bidding process?
Tasers is about the only company that provides this product. I mean, we've been with them since, I think, 2005. No other company makes this product as far as this weapon system. And I think we're kind of in the same boat with a lot of other law enforcement agencies. They're the sole provider for this product and that we already have.
Thank you.
So it'll be compatible with the systems we're currently using?
Yeah,
Right.
correct. Just be a newer, updated technology.
How often do you have to replace those?
It depends year to year. Not as often as people think. It's not like we go out every day, but it could be a couple of times a year. We've had years where we've not had to use it, and we've had some years where we've had to use it quite a bit.
She's asking how long do you have to replace, how often do you have to replace
do
the
they last,
tasers?
like, a long
What's the
time?
lifespan?
Oh,
Like their lifespan, because they're like 57.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. Usually, like the ones we have now, we have some that are almost a decade old,
Okay.
you know, so,
Makes
and
me feel better.
technology changes quite a bit, so.
That
Which does
helps.
it cost when they're deployed to use the cartridge?
Each cartridge,
Yeah.
about, the last cost we had was about $45, $50 a cartridge.
Any other discussion on item 16 or 16A? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding items 16 and 16A to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 16 and 16A are forwarded. Thank you, Chief. Items 17 and 17A. 17 is consideration of a resolution accepting a bid from McConnell Construction Incorporated on behalf of Russellville Municipal Airport for the renovation of Hangar 1 West, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer to enter in an agreement with McConnell Construction Incorporated for the said improvements. And item 17A is an appropriation from the 2024 general fund carryover balance in the sum of $211,640. And this is to fund that renovation. Move.
Is this a grant?
Yeah, I believe it's 80-20, if I remember right. Miss Baker's confirming that. I believe it's an 80-20 grant, yes. Am I right, Miss Baker?
173.60.
Yes, yeah.
173.160 is from the grant, and then our 20 is the 38.480.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
What did you say, Miss Baker? I'm sorry. Okay, so total cost has contingency, and it may be less. So.
Okay. Great. Any more discussion on items 17 and 17A? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding 17 and 17A to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Items 17 and 17A are forwarded. Item 18 is consideration of a resolution waiving the formal bidding requirements for the purchase of equipment for city connectivity and internet services and the purchase of services of said equipment from TCW for the city of Russellville, Arkansas. This is from the IT department. I'm just going to go ahead and move item 18 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Okay, so we've got a, so we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm really excited about this. Public park Wi-Fi, it's great. A lot of public spaces in our town that could have Wi-Fi. I'm excited that we're going to get good internet to our facilities. I do have a question. When all of the fiber companies were laying fiber in residential areas recently, over the last year or so, we did get some continual complaints about one specific company, and I can't remember if
It's not this TCW is
Okay.
definitely not our.
Gotcha.
Is not our
Okay,
not
cool.
our thorn in our side. I can promise you that.
I didn't think so.
Actually,
I just wanted
TCW
to-
actually purchased their own ground penetrating radar machine in order to speed up their process and minimize their problems.
Yeah, sweet. I think that, I just wanted to clarify if that,
No.
because I couldn't remember if it was them or not, but it's a great idea. Great job.
No, it's a super exciting project. And what, in 7 years, we're going to own the infrastructure.
Striping that, yes.
So that's even better. And thank you, Lynn and Ollie, all over there for working on this project. I think it's super exciting. Is there any other discussion on item 18? All those in favor of forwarding item 18 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 18 is forwarded to the full council. Item 19 is consideration of a resolution of the city, consideration of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Russellville. I'm sorry? Okay. Authorizing the mayor and the city clerk treasurer and the chief of police or his designee to execute a letter of intent with Project Lifesavers on behalf of the city of Russellville, Arkansas. Move we forward item 19 to the full council with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on item 19? Chief, you want to tell us what about the Lifesaver program or Project Lifesaver?
Sure, we can do that. This is Officer Haley Tola. She's my Public Information and Community Relations Officer. And she's here to kind of answer any questions if you have specifics on it. But basically, Project Lifesaver is a partnership we'd entered. They're a nonprofit organization that helps and provides us equipment to help locate persons with diminished capacity that tend to wander off. And it's where we could actually provide devices for that. I'll let Officer Tola kind of go into more detail. She's done a lot of research. This is something that Mayor Teague kind of saw, had me research. I got excited. I already sent her to the training. So I thought it was probably a good thing. So we do answer these kind of calls in our community. And it's something that we're going to pursue. And this is one of the first steps to make that happen. So I'll let Officer Tola kind of give you a brief rundown.
Keyword brief, yeah, no, it's good.
So basically, this training I went to, they showed us the device that uses radio transmissions to locate a transmitter located on the patient, whether they have Alzheimer's, autism, whatever it is. They are a at-risk community, a flight risk, where they tend to wander. So with this technology, the caregiver would provide us information saying, hey, I haven't found them, they're not around the house, it's been about an hour. We go out, we respond with our tools and start using our patrol techniques to scan the area for a signal for this device. Once we locate the signal for the device, we just follow it straight to the patient. It does take training to understand how the equipment works, but I used it during the training itself, and it's very efficient, and it was quite exciting to actually have something that takes me right to the patient.
So would someone who wanted to avail themselves of the service, is that something they're going to opt into, and then are they going to then purchase a tag from y'all?
We're
or
still working on whether
Okay.
we provide the first one for free. It's like either a watch, if I understand, or a
Yes, it's
band.
about the size of an Apple Watch. It's completely voluntary. They have to be willing to participate in the program.
That was what I was going to, is it something that you could, if someone had an air tag or like some other form of,
No, this technology is only provided to a law enforcement agency.
Gotcha.
They don't give it out. This is a nonprofit just for law enforcement.
Sweet.
What nonprofit?
It's called Project Lifesaver.
Oh, okay, it's
That's the
this.
name of
Yes,
Okay.
that's the name of the nonprofit.
This was sent to me probably 6-8 months ago by a citizen that saw this in action and really thought it was something that we could benefit from here. And I reached out to Chief, and they jumped on this. And I really feel like it's, we talk about quality of life, quality of place for all of our citizens, and this is a definite, it's a definite thing that would be advantage to us.
And we've talked to other law enforcement agencies in the state. There's a
This
What
is
about
this
10?
is an international program.
Right.
So not only does it service Arkansas, it services the whole entire world. They have Australia, and like I said, we've talked to local jurisdictions. A lot of county agencies do have this device within their program.
So is this dependent on the individual keeping that charged, and how long is that?
So
good
the
for-
charge lasts either 30 or 60 days. So with the caregiver's assistance, they would do a daily monitor of the bracelet. Then a designee would go out every 30 to 60 days to do a service on that watch, to change the battery, check in on them, see how everything's going. There is set procedures and guidelines that we would provide to the caregiver, so they have an understanding what their duties are and what our duties are.
we think it's a pretty cool project to be a
Yep.
part of, so.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
Do we know approximately like what the program's going to cost to get it off the ground and get it going?
The start-off packet they offer is $5,000, not including the additional fee for the instructor to come out and teach the program. I've been very fortunate enough to jump in on another agency's time, so we've gotten a little bit of a discount on that
Total cost.
total cost. Thank you.
So you went to this training. Is this something that now you're going to be able to train other officers on how to use that equipment, or will we have to send everyone to this special training?
No, I'm the instructor now for our
Awesome.
agency.
Great.
You know, and with the $5,000, it's a very cheap,
Yeah.
startup cost. That's something we can either fund through, we applied for a grant through the Alzheimer's Association.
Yes,
It's also
and-
something that the Police Foundation might pick up, but if we, you know, if it's something where we offer the free device to whoever's willing, you know, it might be where other nonprofits can join us, you know, contribute money to help fund this program. So, I mean, we're curious at the kind of participation we would get, but there's, you know, with the cheap startup costs and the ability for other nonprofits to jump in, I think it'll be successful and not really require any taxpayer funding.
I've reached out to some local agencies such as
Bella Vista.
Bella Vista, some nursing homes and stuff like that, and they're interested in the program itself. So each bracelet is going to cost about $350 a person. So that would be the additional money on top of the startup cost that we would need for the funding of this program.
But the individual can purchase them themselves.
They could, yes.
Yes.
Hopefully
Okay.
with funding, we can at least provide some
Yep.
type of.
Anybody got any other questions?
Thank you.
We'll answer anything you got. Sweet. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you all. Is there any further discussion on item 19? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding item 19 to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 19 is forwarded. Item 20 and 20A. 20 is consideration of a resolution to authorize the mayor and the city clerk treasurer and grant administrator to execute a certified local government Arkansas Historic Preservation Program grant agreement with the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism to use for a comprehensive revision of the Russellville Downtown Historic District guidelines, travel, and training expenses with Arkansas Historic Parks, or whatever AHPP stands for, approved conferences and events.
Ms.
and
John Dahl's
local-
shaking her head, so Ms. John Dahl, can you come to the podium?
And local preservation. And item 20 is appropriation, say, pass-through from the 2024 general fund carryover balance in the amount of $150,000 to be used to fund the restoration of the Lattimore Tourist Home.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Ms. John Dahl, what were you?
So this is supposed to be a consideration of a resolution for the mayor and city clerk to sign a grant agreement with Arkansas Historic Preservation Program for the Historic Preservation Restoration Grant and to appropriate funds for the pass-through grant and for other purposes. This is so that the Friends of the Lattimore Tourist Home applied for an HPRG grant through AHPP. They have been awarded $100,000 with a required $50,000 cash match. And they are going to be donating or depositing with the city of Russellville $50,000 as required for the cash match portion of this, but this is a $100,000 grant from AHPP for historic preservation restoration grant. And I do apologize, I tried to get this to Gina on time. I had a medical issue and was unable to, so I do apologize for that.
So, Mr. Smith, do we need to table this because of the verbiage and bring it back on Thursday, or is it okay?
It'll be fine, we can just change the title.
Change the title? Okay.
Motion to send to full council for approval.
Okay. Any more discussion on items 20 and 20A? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding items 20 and 20A to the full council with a recommendation of approval, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Item 20 and 20A are forwarded. Last item on our agenda is item 21, which is discussion regarding recycling, sponsored by Mayor Fred Teague. Mayor, I yield the floor to you.
All right. As many of you know, Polk County has closed their recycling facility at the county complex due to the fact that they're moving their county complex outside the city limits. We've had several, I'm assuming most of you have had calls just like myself about recycling. The question is, you know, all residents who live in a house have recycling available to them at the curb. Those who live in duplexes, apartments, and those type of housing do not have recycling available to them. There is no longer an e-waste available to the best of my knowledge. And so it is just something I wanted to bring. It's up to the council to decide which way you want to proceed. There is question, and Mr. Smith may be able to help on this. In reality, if you did open up some type of recycle facility, you would be using city sales tax funds to service. The majority of that would probably be coming from the county residents. It would not be solely for city residents. You know, one of the reasons, another reason that the county closed it down is it was getting to the point where most of the recycle was not actually going to recycle. It was getting contaminated because there was no supervision of that, and people were just dumping different things that were not recyclable. So that kind of gives you a breakdown of where we're at. I don't know how you want to proceed, or if you don't have to say anything. But like I say, I just wanted to bring that before you, have that conversation and open up that discussion. I don't think there's anything that's going to be done tonight, but I just wanted to put that in your wheelhouse to where you can be thinking about how you might want to proceed with that.
Well, I have a question because at the end of May, near the end of May, I watched our solid waste provider take a can of trash with the robotic arm and dump it into the recycling truck. This was right after they'd gone by my house, and it's a resident who puts trash in both. And so I alerted our liaison to solid waste, and he was checking in on that, but I've not heard back, and now that he's no longer with the city. So has anybody else heard of this going on? Because I just need to know.
I've not heard that.
Okay. Well, I watched it, so
Okay.
this time.
You didn't hear it, you watched it.
Yeah. So anyway, because I just noticed this one house in my neighborhood that always had trash in both, and it was always empty, you know, so I just watched one time. So this doesn't have anything to do with that closing right now, right? So
No, it has
there's
nothing to do with that
still a
closing.
recycling stream. Where is our product going
It's
to?
going to Johnson County to Green Source there. And I have called and talked to Justin Sparrow up there and confirmed that I have in the past, since we've had our new solid waste provider, to make sure that we were bringing recycling to them from Russellville, that we are having trucks, because I did have that concern early on, you know, what were they doing? But I called, and Mr. Sparrow, the director up there, did say that they were receiving trucks from the Russellville area with recycle in them, so.
But this is a different
This is separate, yes.
form of recycling,
Well-
e-waste. Is this like when we do our large pickup?
No, they had a recycle facility.
Okay,
And
all
so people from the county could bring in their cardboard and aluminum and different things like that. Also, did you tell me, Mr. Keller, that they did accept glass at recycling there?
Yes, they accepted glass, they accepted e-waste, and they had just a general big bin that you were able to put various other types of recycling in. But for those who live in the city, the only thing that you'd really need to take there would be your glass and your e-waste, because everything else would go through cards.
Where and how were they disposing of those things that we don't already service to be disposed of? Like, we do cardboard.
Well, and
Some of that may have been going to Green Source also. I don't think the glass was going to Green Source, because I don't
Okay.
think Green Source accepts.
Or e-waste? Like, do they? I don't think
I'm
they-
not sure where they were taking e-waste.
The glass is going to that facility in Little Rock, I think, the new facility there.
I've seen facilities that, it's got like a raised concrete area and then a bunch of roll-offs on the other side, and they like want to be for glass and recycling and bulk items and whatever. I think that'd be something to look at. Would that be something that, do you think the county would entertain splitting with us, since the bulk of the people are going to come from the county?
Because we did pay the county.
Yeah, we were
for
paying half with the
recycling.
county.
So could we just
So we
switch
could,
that?
we could possibly swap, yes. Yeah, because we were paying part of that with the county.
I think if nothing else, we need to provide an e-waste solution for our citizens, as it is illegal to throw away e-waste in the regular trash and end up in a landfill. So without the county providing that service, no one in Russellville can legally dispose of anything that would be considered e-waste without a million extra steps. And traveling themselves to some place far away to take it. So I think at a bare minimum, we need to offer an e-waste disposal option for our citizens.
I would, oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I know at one point in time, we did have a big recycling container out at the animal control office. We did have issues there with dumping and whatnot. However, if we were to offer it there, have, again, something similar to what the county had, but put it behind that fence so that someone has to come through our folks out at animal control, then we've got sort of a stopgap. And if if they're able to go out there and verify that, no, they're not throwing away a deer carcass, they're throwing away e-waste and glass, then that should cut down on like the cross-contamination stuff. And I think Sarah even said if we do it unsorted, then when we take it to the recycling center, they will sort it and throw away the trash and then put the recycling where it needs to go. Whereas if we take it to them and we tell them it's sorted, if there's one thing in it that's not, then the whole thing goes into the landfill.
We would have to find somewhere else beside Green Source to take it. You would find someone else. Now, Cards may actually, I know Cards has a recycle
They
facility in
do,
Northwest Arkansas,
and-
and they may actually, I do know Cards has agreed that we could possibly have an e-waste with them. They could help us with that.
They did. They also talked about glass, but that's before Cards got rid of their local representative, which is who I was working with, to try to bring those things. So I think it may be time that we sit down with Cards again and see what our options were, because that was on the table for future things to add to the contract. I'm not saying it'd be for free, but when you take away our local representative here in the River Valley, that took away all those conversations. They just disappeared overnight. So I would like to see that as well.
I think if we're going to consider doing it, I would not prefer to have it, let's just dump things off at animal control. I don't feel like let's do it. If we're going to do it, let's do it. Let's not halfway do it.
How would
Are you talking
propose?
about like in the single stream recycling, like just adding like glass and
I
e-waste to that?
I think we have a vendor in our community that deals with trash, and we should have a serious discussion with them about adding and see what it takes. I'm not saying we just make a decision and yes, we're going to do it, but if we had this thing that we were doing with the county, what is it going to take for us to provide that same service to our community that was being provided before but is now not? I'm not in the trash business, and the animal control is not in the trash business, but cards is in the trash business. So like, I think we should figure something out with them. I think talking with them is probably our best.
On the state website, it has Goodwill as a drop-off for e-waste. Is that not a thing anymore?
I'm not sure if Goodwill does here locally or not. I do know that I've seen that, but I don't know if they actually have e-waste or not, so.
Well, I'm really want to get something done with e-waste because we all know what happens with e-waste. When you don't allow it, it either gets dumped somewhere illegally or you throw it in the trash bag and you throw it in the trash and it goes to the landfill. So we're not giving our citizens an option to, a viable way to put this stuff where it needs to go. Because a lot of this stuff has got really nasty heavy metals and stuff in it. So, we need for that stuff to be going where it needs to go.
All right, well.
So I definitely like the idea of it being part of our recycling, just that we're currently doing on a biweekly basis. If that's not an option, or if it's a cost prohibitive option, then I think it may be animal control is not the right place. Maybe there is at the new facility that we just purchased on Knoxville. It's got a fenced area, or maybe in the fenced area at Public Works or some other
Public
place.
Works doesn't have any room.
But now we've got the whole
Yeah,
other
yeah,
fenced area
so,
that was
you know,
part of that too.
yeah,
So I
so-
mean, I think we've got some options. If we can't get it in the single stream recycling, we've got to provide something at a bare minimum, a place for folks to drop off.
Off
their
e-waste, okay. All right, well, I just want to get that out in the,
Have you by chance
The
talked to the solid waste district?
yeah, well, I've talked to Cars, just at Sparrow, Solid Waste District's not gonna do any e-waste up there at Green Source, but Card said we could work out something with a dumpster for e-waste if we provide a location, so, we've had that, so. All right. Yeah, anything else?
Do we want to, since all I've heard thus far is folks are kind of interested in learning more and hearing from Cards and what they can do as they're our current provider, do we want to set up potentially something where we can have a discussion with them? Or do we want to just plan on maybe, the mayor, if you can continue to work with them, and then we could have it on the agenda next month?
I just wanted to gauge your interest if it's something that we needed to do. So, so I wanted to gauge your interest.
Okay, is there any more discussion on item number 21? Hearing none, we are completed, and yield the floor back to you.
All right. We will adjourn for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back, reconvene in 5 minutes. Yep. Thank you.
Jane Pittman.
Can we reconvene? All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. When we get everyone back up in here and we'll proceed. Call, oh yeah, we'll call this, well, actually, I'm going to do this. If there is no objection, I would like to move the Phoenix discussion. They're not on the agenda, so they're a work session. So, okay, okay. If there's no objection, I would like to move the work session to before agenda prep. If there is objection, then there is objection. Okay. No. I was thinking of our friends from from AEDC that have to drive back to Little Rock. That was my. Mr. Keller, do you have an objection? No. Okay. All right. So if we can, I'll call this work session to order. And who wants to, how do we want to proceed with that? Okay, so we have one that has asked to speak, and that'd be Mr. Harrison on behalf of Phoenix Industries. Mr. Harrison, okay.
Good evening. It's Nate Harrison with Phoenix Innovations. Thank you all for letting us do this working session tonight. I appreciate everybody being here. The only thing I was going to say was I was just going to make introductions of the folks from AEDC who came tonight and my business partners and also our attorney from Newland & Associates in Little Rock, Elizabeth Caldwell. So I'll start with Libby Caldwell, Newland & Associates, then Ms. Jean Noble, Jennifer Emerson, and Clint O'Neill with the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. And then behind them is Mike Miller and Luke Miller, who are my business partners. And that was what I wanted. I want to make introductions of those who were here because I know you guys wanted maybe put a name with a face for the working session for questions and things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Mr. Harrison, I didn't know how this was going to work. Could you, I want to hear, I know I sat down with you and had a conversation about this, and then we've got folks here from ADC, so I would like to hear how some of this money, whatever the state calls it, I don't know if it's an earmark or something where it goes a certain direction, that money is for this money is in that bucket, and that money's in that bucket. So as I understand it, there's some possible clarification that AEDC can help us with. I thought we'd start with you, so maybe you can guide our discussion on those things that you've brought to us and want clarified, or I want clarified that you've talked about.
Sure. Specifically, you want to talk about our grant and how we started the process, or?
Well, there's that. I know we got a history lesson the last time we met on this issue about where it was. And one of the things that I learned later is, or as I understood it, maybe I misunderstood it the first time, the city, in the contract, we designated the seller, the agent, as somebody from the Chamber of Commerce. Is that correct?
There was not a specific real estate agent assigned
No,
to
I mean,
it, but
not
the person
a
who
real estate agent, but
yeah.
an agent for the contract was somebody from the Chamber. Is that correct?
It would be Paul Harville if it was anyone.
Right.
With
he's
the
one that-
Economic Alliance, yes.
He and Mayor Harris were the first two to actually show us and give us a walkthrough of the Dalton King packaging facility prior to us buying it. And that would have happened in mid-2021, if I'm not mistaken.
But wasn't his name on one of those things I read? The city, I think the word was agent. The city designated him as an agent to do this this deal, right? Yeah, negotiate all this. Is that,
Well, I think,
did I read that
the
correctly?
Alliance, he was the representative of the Alliance,
Yes.
correct? And the Alliance was tasked with trying to fill vacant industrial space in the Russellville area, is that correct? And so he was actually going around, and he would be like your first point of contact if you were looking for industrial manufacturing space in Russellville.
Can somebody up here, Mr. Smith or Mr. Keller, because you were on the council then, was there not a word about an agent that would represent the city?
I don't remember I don't remember what the specific thing that you're talking about, no. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do you know what document that was?
Unfortunately, all of my documents are sitting in my truck at the airport in Little Rock because my brother-in-law is flying in the night, and I did not know my truck was going there with all my stuff in it because I just got off a plane from Cleveland. So I'm without all of my stuff that I need. But
So is the question whether or not Mr. Harville was acting as an agent of the city of Russellville when he showed the building and they did the sale? That might be for Mr. Smith.
yeah, because I remember the word. I thought I remember the word. He was acting as, or he was designated as the agent for the city, and I don't know if the previous mayor did that or what, but I'm just trying to get the point of if the city designated someone to act on our behalf, then some of the things that the $150,000, and I don't know, I'd like to hear from the ADC on these buckets of money and what they can be spent for or not spent for, because when I spoke with you, that seemed to be one of the issues is that the ADC is going to tell us tonight, perhaps, that the money that you got a grant for couldn't have been used for a parking lot. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I can let them come
Yeah,
up and
that's what
speak
I
if
wanna
they'd
hear.
like to. That way they can kind of walk you through the process in general.
Well, I've got it. It's just in my truck in Little Rock. Thank you. Sure.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
If you would state your name for those in at home, Mr. O'Neill.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Clint O'Neill. I'm the Executive Director of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. I'll make some high-level comments and turn it over to my colleagues if they give me a look like I butchered something. But so we have incentive programs at AEDC to incentivize job growth statewide. Our mission is really twofold: to serve Arkansans by serving communities, helping communities be best prepared for economic development success, and businesses for job growth. When we think about business, we think about entrepreneurs and small business. We think about existing companies and the growth of those companies, and think about recruiting new businesses. And so we have tools that range from income tax credits, refund of sales tax for construction materials on a construction project, training grants, across the board, a lot of programs. We have two cash funds that are considered deal closing funds. So if we have a project that we really want to win, we recognize that it's competitive, it's creating good paying jobs, a good level of capital investment, it's going to be a great project for the community. It fits the eligibility criteria, and that's just a series of what we call primary jobs and basic industries, those that are going to export goods or services out of the market, import money, really help to cultivate a better economy. So those two cash programs are the Governor's Quick Action Closing Fund, which is a fund that we use with state funds as a deal closing fund on a cash per job basis. So we might assign $5,000 or $10,000 per job, something like that, to incentivize job growth. And the other one is called the Community Development Block Grant Fund, so CDBG. So Gene Noble on our team is the administrator of CDBG funds, leads our grants division. It's actually money from the federal government, from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, from HUD, that flows through the state. We receive CDBG funds every year that we divide into two categories: general assistance and economic development. So within that economic development pot of funding, we use it as a deal closing fund. Again, find a project that we like and go after it. So with this project, 50 new jobs, average hourly wage $27.01 per hour. We took a look at a lot of different elements. Needs to be a win-win scenario, a positive return on investment to the state, positive cost-benefit analysis, and assigned $240,000 in CDBG funds. What we discovered, what we've known for a long time, is that anytime you use federal funds for a construction project, there comes more regulatory burdens it becomes a longer process. And so what we do oftentimes with CDBG is an allowable process through HUD of offsetting some cost that doesn't trigger Davis-Bacon requirements or any kind of federal regulatory burdens that we have to go through. So for this, $240,000 of CDBG funds to be used for equipment. Technically, it's as you know, Mayor, a grant that is not directly from AEDC to the company, but it's a pass-through with the city. So it's not a grant that we give to the city, and the city has authority to assign or make any decisions at that point. It's just something that the city agrees to be the pass-through mechanism as a benefit to the company in that city. I hope that helps. Any?
So it has been said a couple different times that the grant that was originally, for which Phoenix Industry originally applied, could not have been used for parking lot and could not have been used for the fence. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say it that black and white. It would have.
Well, I mean, it could be used for that, and I understand that there may be some extra steps that have to go through for it to be used for that purpose, or it can't. So, I mean, could it have been used for a parking lot and fence, or could it not have been used for those two items?
That's correct. That would be an eligible expense.
It would have been eligible for that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, that's the only question I have about it then. So the grant was I'm sorry, I say that and then I go and ask more questions. So the grant could have been and was originally applied for the repaving of the parking lot and the construction of the security fence. Is that correct?
I don't believe we have an application or any kind of document. Gene, I'll let you speak to that.
It was tentatively applied for in the company's application for parking lot and fencing,
Okay.
not formally applied for by the city. By the time the city formally applied,
Okay.
once they were invited to apply, it had been determined that it would be better to be an equipment activity.
Who determined that?
We determined that
We, as in the Arkansas Economic Development Commission?
we discussed some alternatives to the parking lot and fencing because the parking lot is located in the floodplain, basically. So it is possible that through the floodplain 8-step process that would have been required, that's a timely process of many public notices and public a participation process, a comment period. It's possible that it might not have been able to be used for the parking lot, but it probably
But
would
we
have
didn't even
cleared.
get-
it
we didn't even
probably
get
would
to
have
that
cleared
part.
You didn't get to that
Okay.
part because we had a discussion, as we frequently do, about streamlining things. Equipment purchases are much more streamlined, like Clint said, as far as, regulatory burden. So because of it being located in the floodplain, which would have required a timely process of advertisements by the city and the 8-step process, it would have required mitigation measures, which might have made the cost go higher. It might have changed the design plan, increased the cost. Construction projects with federal funds also require federal prevailing wages to be paid. It would have required on-site monitoring of the contractor's
So there's been a lot of
payment.
things too. There would have
it's
been a
just a
lot of
lot.
things that would have had to have done and had to have happened
Right.
for these funds to be used for the parking lot and the fence.
Correct.
So
So-
it was decided by
Hey, do you have equipment?
whom to do it for equipment instead of the fence and the parking
Well,
lot?
I personally suggested to my counterparts at AEDC to ask the company if they had equipment needs instead of construction needs.
So ADEC said that while this could be used for the tentative application that was originally submitted for those two items, the fence and the parking lot, ADEC suggested to Phoenix Innovation that if they went for a grant for something else, for equipment, that the process would be faster, would be more streamlined, and they would be able to access those funds more quickly.
Correct.
Okay.
So what if it wouldn't have been able to be drawn out of the flood zone? Could it have been used for, I mean, if it was in a flood zone, it couldn't have been used for a parking lot, right? Because I've seen them where they will not pull them out of a floodplain.
It can with mitigation measures. I mean, this 8-step process
Yeah.
Would have required mitigation measures if there weren't any alternatives. So there are no alternatives to that parking lot. It can't be put anywhere else. So
Exactly.
the only
Okay.
alternative would be to improve that parking lot in the floodplain. So it would have required, and in parking lots, typically the mitigation measures are like pavers,
Yeah.
certain pavers or green spaces. So it would have been probable that we would have had to have replaced that cost estimate. It could have been a more expensive.
Okay.
But we didn't get that far, right? That's the whole point, is we never got to where those decisions were made. Is that correct? Okay.
And do you know if it was was it Phoenix Innovation's decision to go for equipment as opposed to the fence and the parking lot, or was it the city's determination?
A company is usually going to want to do the most streamlined process.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it was ultimately the city's choice. I mean, they did formally apply for equipment in the application that they submitted.
Okay.
So then was the city's choice, the city opted for, I mean, the discussion that the document said in lieu of, so I guess, if it was the most streamlined way to do it, if the company decided to spend it on equipment, then the city, at least, I don't know, I wasn't there, I wasn't on the council when this decision was, or when the beginnings of this decision was made. Isn't that kind of what played out? The city said, okay, you're taking that instead of the parking lot. So I'm back at square one now. I feel that. Isn't that what you kind of just said? Was it up to the company to do with the money, the grant they get?
Yes, sir. I would characterize it as, from our standpoint, we want to win the project, and so the grant funds that we had are most expeditious toward equipment, and so it's kind of a joint decision. It was our recommendation to the company. It was the company saying, this works for us. It was the city filing the formal application with the equipment. So, any one party that says that doesn't work for me, it would take all three.
Yeah, please do.
And when the city formally applied for the grant as equipment, it was put into law, or not put into law, but put into Resolution 2086. And I don't know if you guys all got the email that I had sent you regarding Resolution 2086. So it was mentioned in here that we didn't go through the proper channels of coming back and amending the original seller contract from the city to Phoenix Innovations. But that Resolution 2086 was done in plenty of time that contract could have been amended, because Resolution 2086 used Exhibit A to tell us that it was for equipment purchases, and it was signed off on by the entire city council, the mayor, and Mr. Smith. So if we refer to document, or the resolution 2086, which I actually pulled up off the Russellville City website, you can see that it was done prior to any money. It was done before the checking account was even created to give Phoenix Innovations the $240,000. So at any point in time prior to that checking account being created, or when that was brought back up, it could have been amended right then. So if there was anybody that had an issue with parking lot fence or equipment at that point in time, after the city had formally applied for us for equipment as the pass-through, that would have been a time to raise that and to change that. But instead, it stayed on the seller repairs list throughout the entire process.
I would agree with that. I mean, I was very hung up on the in lieu email, but after further discussion and seeing some of these, I think, failures to act on this at the appropriate time, I feel like we're on the hook for this. And I think we just need to get it done.
So, Mr. Harrison, let me ask you this. I was on the council when this happened, and I was super happy to be in favor of working.
I remember
for
you were
getting this
super
happen.
supportive of
I
our
was.
job creation. I'm very thankful for that.
I was. No, and I was happy to do it. I think I'm super happy that you guys are here, and I'm very excited about the business that you guys are growing right here in Russellville. What I can say, though, is as someone who was on the council at that time, when the project was pitched and the whole proposal was pitched to the city, and even in the documents provided to us from you guys and the Alliance, it stated in there that that you guys had applied for grants to cover the parking lot and the fence.
So,
Okay, so
Go
it
ahead.
was stated in the presentation that you gave to the city for why we should get behind this project, why we should ultimately sell the building for less than what we purchased it for, and why we should make that investment is because part of the city, part of one of the things the city was getting is that, yeah, we've got these two items that the city is responsible for, but you guys were applying for grants that you had been told that you were probably going to be getting, and so that was going to be taken care of. And then furthermore, the Alliance, Paul Harrell at the time said that even if the grants didn't come through, that the city wasn't going to be out any money.
quick
for
correction.
this.
I didn't apply for any grants until after we'd already done the original contract on the building.
Okay, so,
And so we didn't apply for any of those grants. I agreed to apply for those grants with the Alliance to try and save the city money. And if I could have gotten the money expeditiously to do the parking lot and fence, it would have actually saved the city money on the seller repair list. I did that because I was so grateful to the city for doing me, for being able to work so well with us on the building.
okay, so I'm trying to find, in here is a copy of the document that was given to the city from the Alliance and Phoenix Innovations, and this was given to us when we were having the initial discussion back in 2021. And it says in here that you have grants pending with the Arkansas Economic Development for the resurfacing of the parking lot, estimated at $176,950, and for security fencing around the perimeter of the property, estimated at $53,000. Now, I don't understand why you're saying that you had never even applied for the grant, but in the documents provided to us when we discussed the deal initially, from you and the Alliance, you say that you did.
Sure, so I'd like to see that
So,
document.
I mean, I don't understand, it's like Schrodinger's grant application. I mean, here, you can see it, this is the highlighted portion there. Well, that's a copy of the document that was given to us back in, I believe, was it September of '21, when this first came to us? So at that meeting where we made that decision, it was brought to us that you had, one, applied for the grants and were not guaranteed, but virtually assured that there was something that you guys were going to be able to get grants from the ADEC that was going to cover these costs. But then assured from the Alliance, the River Valley Alliance, that even if we didn't get the grants, and that's not in there, but if you can go back and listen to the meeting, you know, and then in subsequent conversations with Paul Harville on it, Paul Harville.
Paul Harville.
Paul
And I'm
Harville.
trying to figure out at
I'm
what
sorry.
point in time this was developed, so.
That the city, for these two items, was going to be covered. Then ADEC said, well, let's streamline this process and do it for equipment. And then, and I've talked to former Mayor Harris, and he remembers it as this as well, saying that it was presented to the council. These pass-through CB Community Development Block Grant funds for the equipment would satisfy the parking lot and the fence, because you would then, the money that you would have been using to purchase that equipment is now freed up to do those two improvements. So I'm having trouble, like, I'm super happy that you're here, and I'm very glad that we made the deal, but what I'm having trouble is we were told at the time that you'd applied for grants to cover these things. Then now you're saying, well, those things aren't done, and we decided that we wanted to streamline the process, and we were going to change the original tentative agreement or tentative application, whatever it was called, to something else. And that was the decision that you made. Why are you saying that you made the decision to alter the deal that you brought to the city, that the way you presented it to the city, but you still, like, you didn't hold up to what you had presented, but you're expecting the city to hold up to
But I
ours.
didn't create that document. Did Paul Harville create that document?
It was presented to us the night that you came and spoke to us downstairs.
I understand, but did I create that document? Where was that document?
That was handed to the council that
Which
night.
document are you,
It was,
are you talking about a letter, or
No,
are you talking about the sale contract, or? Oh, that's something from Paul Harville's office, yes. That was.
So that's something
Yeah,
from the
Paul would never
Alliance.
sign anything, so.
So did you, like,
No, that's from Paul Harville's office,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, that's not from, that is from Paul Harville's office,
I
so.
didn't even prepare that document. And there's a lot of discussion on the front and back end of projects like this. And you say, well, you can maybe apply for some grants, and maybe you'll get some grant money for that, or maybe this will come through, or maybe that'll come through. And I don't know if Paul put that in there as an incentive to the city so that they would look at it a little bit closer, but I didn't even prepare the document.
That was not yours yet, no, that was
No.
not yours, that you did not prepare that, so.
I mean,
That came from the Economic Alliance.
I've been very clear from day one what our intentions were at Phoenix Innovations and what our buyer improvements were supposed to be and what the seller improvements were supposed to be.
The seller improvements never got modified. If we were going to modify the seller improvements, we should have done it when we gave them a check as the pass-through. Had signed here, it would have released us from those seller improvements. But we didn't do that. We just didn't. Whether we, on purpose, not on purpose, somebody missed it, whatever happened, we still have the same seller improvements. They got a grant for something different. We still have to pay for the seller improvements. It's a contract. It's
And in
simple.
Resolution
Whether somebody
2086.
says it's a in lieu of or not, an email or whatever, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We have a contract.
Yeah.
We will pay for our contract, or our side of the contract.
Or a 3-second conversation that someone had at a
Right.
meeting.
So
That's not even here anymore.
exactly. Who represented who and said what, and it doesn't matter. We have a contract that says we're going to do something. We need to do it.
Well, all right, let's, on those Schedule A repairs, so.
And again,
what-
don't let it be forgotten either. We've already said, we'll eat the security fence. I'm not going to
Right.
say, come back and retroactively ask. We paid for it. It's already off the books for 2 years. We've had that done. Our gate keeps breaking, but
Well,
other
that's
than
my-
that, we're good.
That's my question. I want to make sure these are all checked off. So it's existing parking lot repaired and resurfaced, that's why we're here. Clean up trash and debris in the area directly behind the building. That was done.
Done.
By Mr. Harville.
Actually, by
through
Arkansas
his
Tech, Arkansas Tech
Yeah.
students came and did that. It was awesome.
Security fencing, you just said y'all have done that?
We've done that, and I will waive our right to the security fencing funding.
So you did something on that we were supposed to do.
That's correct.
LED lighting upgrades throughout the manufacturing space, you wound up, I think you told me you didn't need some of those, and so you wound up not doing, you did what you needed to do.
We did all of it, and it was actually paid for all through Entergy grants.
Okay. And then relocate existing rail cars on the rail spur, and that was.
Done, and the easement was quitclaimed back to us from DNR
Yeah.
Railroad.
And who did that? The rail cars?
DNR Railroad moved
DNR
their
did,
cars,
okay.
and then they assisted us in removing the rail.
Okay.
So that's what I would like to see happen, is us satisfy what is being asked for with a release that we're held, as having satisfied everything in that contract. That the business holds us as having satisfied our part.
Hey,
We would agree.
Okay, so instead of us just giving a check for this, though, can this be something that Public Works takes over, and then they bid it out, and then that way we're not handing any more money, but we fulfill our duty? Or do we need to?
Well, then
we
we
could
get
just do
into
it in-house.
environmental, I mean, yeah, so that's the other problem.
So the better route is to literally just pass the
don't-
money through?
I don't think you're going to be subject to anything in the floodplain. There's no issue in the floodplain. You're just repaving a parking lot. So that whole conversation was mute.
Yeah,
So
this is no new.
there's
con-
no
this is
issues
no
on the
new
floodplain.
construction. This would be
So-
a repair and resurface of existing laid asphalt.
So
Would you,
Okay.
would you be opposed at finding, going down that route for the next meeting and getting a couple bids and us going? Does that make sense?
may I make a recommendation? If you're going to proceed with this, as usual for any purchase of this that the city does, it needs to be put out to bid. We take the lowest bidder, and we pay for this based on the fact that we own this building at this point in time. We are technically the owner of this building. If you're going to proceed and repave this parking lot, I think it needs to go out to public bid, lowest bidder, and then we pay for that through Fund 27. It would be the only way I could see that we could possibly pay
Well,
for
then
that.
we better get some really low bids then, because that could wind up being more than $150,000. And I am a middle ground person. I would like to find some middle ground here.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that's my safest thing for the city. You can, I
Well, if
don't get a
somebody
vote. I
comes-
don't get a vote up here. So.
Somebody comes in at 75 grand, I'm all in, but not sure that's gonna happen. That's
Didn't you
my
get some
point.
bids, Nate? Don't you have some bids?
We do have two bids. We have one from Blackstone Construction, and we have one from Bowden Construction. I can obtain a third bid. They're all very recent, within the last, I can get them to update them within 30 days, but I believe they're all within the last 60 days.
How much was it?
So I believe the Bowden Construction bid was $155,000. And we're putting, and that's a small deal. We're redoing other parts of it as well. We are going to put in extra money on top of this because we are having to expand. We've got 72 people now. We've got 2 new product lines rolled out, and I've got people parking. A tree limb fell on one of our employees' cars the other day because I've got them parking under trees. And I replaced their windshield at our cost, even though they didn't have to park under a tree, but that's who we are. We're going to take care of our people.
You said how much?
155,000 was the lowest bid that we had. It was either 155 or 158, but I've sent it to, but I can send them in.
Well, if we're back to, we've got a contract, there was some fuzziness on both sides, not intentional, but both sides maybe didn't quite dot all the i's, then I don't want to get into a bidding thing when the 150,000 is something that we tacitly agreed to or not. I don't know. I just don't want to. I don't want the city in the parking lot business, because we'll get in the parking lot business if we do that. So.
So do you think we just give them the
Well,
number?
because everything Mr. Keller said makes a ton of sense. But there still is the cellar repair sitting here, and if we're gonna start talking about bidding out something that may or may not, I mean, what if during construction you have a sinkhole, or I'm just throwing out stuff, and then all of a sudden we're a lot deeper in. I would just, if that's where we are, then we just need to,
How do you propose to pay for this?
well, it could come out of economic development, since that was the whole point, is they've created the jobs out there that, and plus, what they said they would do. So it'd have to come
Who
out of
would you
some
make, who would you
economic-
make the check out to?
It would go to Phoenix Innovations, because that's what this whole, I mean, it's right there in the seller contract. Well, y'all
That-
shake your head all you want.
So we've
I'm
got-
trying to find middle ground, so.
We've got.
Or do we
Miss,
pay the
would
vendor?
would it help if I prepared a bid package with the 3 bids, returned it over to the city, let the city planner's office, whoever, look at it, and then you guys can say, okay?
That's not, that's not the same thing, and we can't write a check out of sales tax money to a company. I don't believe so, can we, sir? Mr. Smith? No, we can't write a check out of sales tax money to a company.
So you would have to pay the contractor directly for the
Yes,
services?
and in order for us to spend sales tax dollars, we have to go out to bid.
Okay.
Once again, I'm just saying, I'm trying to tell you the safest way to keep us from getting dinged on an audit. Now, once again, I will say, there are 8 votes up here, and I'm not one of them, so.
So can we get one more bid by next
Did they
council
ask
meeting
what?
and vote on it?
The auditor, we do have to report, we have been informed that we have to report to the auditor tomorrow morning what happens with this meeting, so.
Yeah, so they're interested in what we do tonight.
Yes.
And if they find something irregular with the city, they could turn it over to criminal prosecution. Is that correct?
That would be your wheelhouse, sir. I'm assuming that you know it much better than I do, so.
I do, and that's a question I knew the answer to. Yes, they do. And plus, this will probably expose us to legal exaction for civil liability as well. So, but I'll follow up and I'll send you all emails just to explain that legal position, because it is complex. But kind of wanted y'all to know that as well.
What actions can the city take to overlay the parking lot there to satisfy the remaining seller's obligation that would not expose the city to criminal or civil action?
I think if you make this second transaction any form, I think that the city will be exposed to criminal and civil liability. That's just my position. I think the problem is the money went to equipment, which was never an incentive contemplated. It's never listed in the sales contract. And so I don't see how you can justify.
What's listed in the sales contract?
I'm advising the council, so.
I understand,
The
but-
equipment you spent, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the council.
I
They've asked a
understand.
question. And so, my thing is, I think an auditor will see that we are paying for a benefit to a private individual instead of economic incentive, because it was never contemplated in the contract, which induced this whole thing. So, again, he won't have to worry about it, it's a council issue.
What does Resolution 2086 say?
It says for the purchase of equipment, which was to be in lieu of the parking lot.
It doesn't say in lieu in that letter.
I believe it was, and I believe that was what the previous mayor has always said it was for.
But it's not in the letter from Mike Preston, the
I understand, but-
Secretary of Commerce for the state of Arkansas.
I understand that, but I'm pointing out to the council, who is my client, not you, that if they do this, there's a chance the auditor will ding them, and then they will turn it over to the prosecutor's office. And then also, there's the private illegal exaction under a civil suit. Now, if you want to cover the city and pay for the legal expenses, you can, to reassure them, that's fine. But that's what I have to do, and the duty as a city attorney is advise them that this transaction is going to raise these issues.
So could we be sued either way then? Like we could be sued by who you're talking about, Trey, or Phoenix, can they sue us? I mean, I feel like either way, we're open for liability here. What's,
I believe, yes, you could. I believe if he wants to, you can. There's legal defenses I see in it. That's something I can talk to you privately about. But I think if you make the second transaction, it's just going to be darn hard to explain that this wasn't a purchase for private individual and you're violating Article 12, Section 5 of the Arkansas Constitution.
So our corporate attorney, Libby Caldwell, would like to ask a couple questions, if that's okay.
Yes, I was about to ask, what is your legal opinion?
Well, so I'm going to start off and say I don't have any position regarding what Mr. Smith's saying regarding legal exaction and whatnot. I have not had a chance to look into that, so I'm not disputing that. I really have more of a question. So the way this was structured was as an installment contract. Basically, that Phoenix is paying rent over time until it eventually purchases the property. Until that time, the city essentially stands in the shoes of a landlord, and the contract provides, who has responsibility for what. In this case, I would see the seller's improvement list, that schedule, as being similar to any landlord improvement list you would see in any lease. So my question is, and I'm truly asking because I don't know, I'm not making a suggestion, is how does the city normally handle landlord improvements or maintenance for property that the city owns and leases? Would that be an option?
That's what I was going to say is we still own the building, so we need to re-asphalt our parking lot. So we go to bid for 3 bids and take the lowest bid and we asphalt the parking lot. Seller's agreement done, check, go on.
So, Mr. Smith, there's always an indemnity clause. Is there something we can write up that we do this, that where we've satisfied our obligations of a city-owned property and we don't get it? I just want it to cost $150,000 if that's what it's going to, because that seems to be the amount that was, I just don't want to pay any more than that, what we've agreed to, whether we agreed to it or not. Lord, I don't know. I wasn't on the council when this all started, so.
If we got 2 bids at the same area within the last 60 days or same whatever, the last 60 days, it can't be plus or minus much, right?
I'm just thinking of the future when there's another issue and you did it, we hear it all the time. You did it for them, so now you need to do it for me. So I'm trying to avoid that.
How about we just don't do a seller's agreement with a new parking lot and fence on it, and then it doesn't matter?
So on Schedule A, the fence is done, the cleanup is done, the LED, the relocating the rail. The only thing on Schedule A that's remaining to be done is the parking lot, correct? And on Schedule B, all 8 items have been completed.
You can read them off and I'll tell you.
2 small expansions to the existing structure to provide for manufacturing space for additional product lines.
That's correct.
Updates and renovations to the existing office space.
That's correct, and the addition of new office space for the additional 7 engineers that we had to hire.
Interior addition of a modern employee break room.
It's done, and we added a marketplace from Burris in there, and you guys should come take a look at it because it's incredible.
Raising the roof approximately 20 feet higher on the 75 by 60 section on the southwest side of the building.
We ended up repairing that roof at the 20-foot height and adding the bridge cranes into that section.
Great. installing one or more 10-ton bridge cranes, which you just said you guys.
We have put
yeah.
2.
Updating existing employee restrooms.
Absolutely, we've
Okay.
added 7 new restrooms, women's and men's restrooms, ADA compliant.
Great. Interior electrical upgrades of approximately, it says it for approximately $100,000.
We've far exceeded that
Yeah.
number.
And then additional interior upgrades such as new interior doors, cleaning storage, and upgrades. So you guys have satisfied all of yours?
Yes, sir. And we have satisfied, Ms. Noble, all of our CDBG grant requirements in the time frame as well.
And you hired the number of more than the number of, minimum number of employees you guys
I'll let
had to
Dave
have
answer.
for the.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With
That's
the
correct.
agreement with the city.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I want to say that my frustration is with the situation. It's not with you guys. My frustration is with apparently somewhere along this process, there has been some miscommunication and things have not been documented maybe the way that they should have been. Possibly things that were done in handshakes weren't ever put in writing, and that's unfortunate. But then I think you can see that we're kind of in a pickle here, where because you took the grant funds that were originally to go towards the parking lot and the fence, and you took those funds instead for new equipment, which I understand why you did. I mean, it made it faster. You got a chance to, you know. and
There
this-
were ideas. I mean, these are all just ideas. It was end up taken
Well, I mean, it's
exactly for the equipment. There were ideas that we could use it for a security. We had other ideas too. We actually had ideas that we would use it for exterior building upgrades and storage areas, but we didn't put that all down.
No, that's.
I think the point is that when the time to pay out that grant came, we didn't change the contract. We didn't put a stipulation on there that this covered our responsibilities. So, I mean, we maintained our debt.
I get that. Where we're in a pickle is the fact that we have this obligation that we need to fulfill. But according to our attorney, if we fulfill it, we're opening the city up to criminal and civil liabilities. So there's a little bit of a pickle there, though.
No matter which account the money comes from, we would be opening ourselves up to that?
It's not, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not the account that it comes from, it's the act of paying to cover the parking lot. Okay, so that's my question then. So if it's in the seller's agreement that we have to cover the parking lot, and there was no other ordinance or resolution or any other contract, passed or signed by the city making that change from, officially making the change from equipment or from fence and parking lot to equipment, how can we fulfill that obligation as spelled out in the seller's list of things to do without opening the city up for a lawsuit? Is there any way to do that?
I can't see of one. I think it's either you do or you don't. I don't think there's, we can try and explain it the best we can if you want to go ahead and do this, but I just, once the act's done, you have liability. Whether the liability is acted upon, that's something to future people that will be out of the city's hands to make a decision on.
Even though that's our property, we own the property, so there's,
That's an argument we can make to the auditors. That's all I can say.
And if the check
It
went
will
straight to the vendor?
Again, it's going to come down to whether they believe it's economic development in a public purpose sense, or if it's for the benefit of an individual or private corporation. And that'll be up for the interpretation of people that review this transaction, and they will review it. It's just too big it's not a $20 buying a Coke or something. This is a six-figure transaction. They will see it. They've already seen it. They know about it. They've asked the mayor about it.
So I'm just asking because I want to make sure I'm following.
Mhm.
So the argument is that the installment contract for the sale as written, the city couldn't have fulfilled it from the very get-go?
No, what I'm saying is there was nothing in that agreement where there was the use of any money for equipment,
Right?
right?
But there also wasn't a use to put in a dog park.
I
So-
know, and you didn't use the money for a dog park. The thing is, the money was used for equipment. It hits the city cut a check. The auditor's gonna say that money went out of the city at the end of the day, not what AEDC says.
But it was specifically the grant that was applied for, it went to what it was applied for.
I understand that, but there was no contemplation in the agreement for equipment. It was not an incentive at any point in time when the city, it was after the fact, after it was changed. I see that they're gonna view it as there's a second transaction, they're gonna view that first one as a fund to a private individual. That's the way I see it.
I'll let you address that. In the past, we have had some concerns from cities that are uncomfortable accepting CDBG funds because they would be writing checks to private companies, and have talked to legislative audit about that. That does not violate the act that forbids sales tax or city revenue from being paid to a private industry. It's governed by a grant agreement. So this grant agreement that was signed in September of 2022 governs the city's payment to the company for this activity.
I know, but again, the contract that deduced it in '21 said nothing about it. The 2021 sales agreement, where it's had Schedule A, does not list the incentives as one that we would buy equipment.
Well,
This
I
is
would
a-
argue, not to argue,
I know.
if I could just bring to the table.
Yeah, so that the people at home can hear you, Mr. O'Neill.
Sure. Thank you. If I could just add one thing. So, it's very commonplace in Arkansas for us to work very closely with our community partners, local economic development organizations, and city halls to jointly work to facilitate job creation. And so any state incentives that we might offer would not necessarily be reflected in a local seller's agreement or even a local incentive package. I mean, I would encourage you to see this as a partnership, as cities all around the state use sales tax dollars to partner with AEDC to provide a state and local incentive proposal in order to facilitate job creation. So we could have added a number of incentive programs post-seller agreement. And as Gene can outline for you, I mean, this is something that we do, dozens of times per year. There's something that, happy to walk you through any questions as it pertains to audit or anything else.
I would like to add that we would like to see you do that more in our community, even outside of this situation.
Yes, sir.
We have to have a way to a solution. So everything we have proposed seems to have, like there's no solution without us getting sued or being open to liability. But we're still back to, we own the property. Can we not improve it based on that resolution 1961 with the Schedule A seller repairs?
If you're asking me, I'll have to go back and look. I'm not prepared for an installment contract. I'd have to look and see what the law is on that.
Mayor, when do you have to report? You have to report back to somebody in the morning?
Yeah,
'Cause we obviously,
Auditors are on site right now, so we will have to, we'll speak with them at 8 o'clock in the morning.
we are not in a council meeting, so we cannot vote. So I'm
No,
not sure.
no, we can't vote,
So I'm saying, what in the world do you, I mean, I don't know that we can, you can tell we had a long discussion.
Mr. Gray and Mr. Keller, so we did some research back here, but the CDBG grant, the one we were discussing earlier, was not received by the Arkansas Economic Development Commission until March of 2022. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I've got that.
I just wanted to make sure.
I'm
We
just-
were talking about that earlier.
What I was referencing was that, and now I know that you
I
weren't,
didn't
that
create
you
that
didn't create that document.
And no
But
agent,
that
of-
was,
no agent of Phoenix created that document.
well,
because
that
I have
was.
to give them the agency.
I get it. That was given to us the night that we discussed it.
Yes,
And
sir.
that was something that was always said as far as part of this. You know, we had some folks who, you know, on the council, the only reason that they voted for it is the idea that, okay, well, we can do this because the city's not going to be out anything regardless on the sellers, and because we were going to be able to use the tech students to go out and do the cleaning up.
Sure.
And we were able to work with the railroad to move in the cars, and
And
then
y'all-
we had these grants that were going to
That's
take
right.
care of the only two items that weren't, you know, done in some sort of in-kind way.
Sounds like that was speculation on Paul's part. We had talked about grants, we want to apply for grants, but Paul wanted to close the deal.
And what if you
this
hadn't have gotten the grant? Then would we have would we have not had the obligation to do it? Because there was no guarantee you were going to get the grant.
That was
Right?
that was my
Well,
point.
According to the contract, I haven't seen anything in the
Okay.
contract that says,
There is not anything in the contract to this.
and that's where we're at
And-
fault, so we've
and I
got to
think
give
that,
you a decision.
Again, according, you know, I can say that, yeah, a deal was definitely wanted to be closed by certain people who also made commitments to the city that even if the grants didn't happen, that the city wouldn't be out any money on this, which apparently they were not able to make those commitments at that time, and unfortunately, they're not around to discuss that anymore. That's where it's frustrating for me, is because again, it was brought to us that we were going to have something that was going to be able to cover the city's obligation on this. And
Sure.
then the way it was relayed to us as the council is that the economic development funds that you did receive was going to cover what we did owe on that, because that would free up funds.
Sure.
Because you were going to purchase this equipment anyway. This wasn't like, you didn't go buy something that you weren't going to need anyway. You used these funds to get a piece of equipment that you were already going to buy.
That would have been in a business plan for us to buy. We might not have been able to get it as quick. We would have made it
Right,
without
but-
some,
but
yeah, but
regardless, I mean,
it's something that, it might not have been a need, it could have been a want at the time, but this also raises another question, as me being the president of Arkansas Valley Soccer Association, we're not opening you up to liability by paving the parking lot out there, are we?
I mean, I can't answer that question. I'm not an attorney.
You
so-
guys are paving your own parking lot there too, so I'm just trying to figure out if that's gonna be something I need to address with the soccer board.
Well, I'm not an attorney, but I would assume that, I mean, we own the fields, and you guys just go out there and use them.
And you own the Dalton King Packaging Building as well.
I'm not an attorney, so. Are the auditors able to suggest a path forward on this, or are they going to say that's not what we do?
They say there's a state law that prevents them giving advisory opinions.
Is there anyone that we,
Then who does? Is the Attorney General's office?
I was about to say, could we apply to the AG or DFA for an opinion?
You could, but only they only answer constitutional officers, so nobody here could do it, and I doubt y'all could do it either. You could get a state rep or a state senator to maybe ask.
I could
I
probably
believe we
find
could get
someone.
that, yes.
I think we could probably, yeah.
Can we do that?
Let-
So we can find a way off High Center here?
Also, so the auditors, and I'm not trying to delve too far into your business, I understand, because I've had to go through sales tax audits for private clients. But, and I know they're not going to issue advisory opinions, but there's, closing out audits and moving forward. And, presenting information to them and saying, hey, this is how this is handled, and they're like, basically, cool, I've got it, we're moving on. I don't know kind of where y'all are at in that process, but I don't know if just presenting to them the concept that this is really an agreed landlord improvement more than anything, how that would go over with them.
I guess that would, realistically, and you and Mr. Smith know better than I do, that would have to be in the verbiage of the contract. If it, if it was a triple net lease where, we just have to go back and look at that. What they can do, like I say.
Well, because the way it was written in the contract is very much like a landlord improvement, because under possession and conveyance, the property was supposed to be given over to Phoenix with the seller's improvements list done. Like, it was supposed to be done before they even took possession of it, which again is, to me, a landlord. If they were asking, where does it say that in the contract? I'm throwing it out there. It's section 3.01.
All right, I think we've discussed this again.
Community development block grant funds can be applied for by a city on behalf of any entity within the city for a project that would meet the requirements for the grant.
They can be competitively applied for by any city or county in Arkansas for community development, like public infrastructure, public facility projects. Economic development projects are invited to apply as a result of a commitment that has in the incentives process. So this wasn't a competitively applied for application for this project. It was.
So, like, let's say hypothetically we sold the building and we had the sellers and buyers agreements and everything like that. We would still be we as the city and Phoenix Innovations through us would still be able to apply for a community development block grant for a project, potentially. Whether it would be funded or not, we don't know.
For that project?
For an economic, any economic development project within the city.
Economic development projects are invited to apply after after the incentive process has been negotiated with the business developers at AEDC. So all of the cost-benefit analysis and underwriting process is done, and then a city or county is formally invited to apply for a grant that would capitalize that cash incentive.
Sorry, that's my last question.
All right, so Ms. Brittany and I will speak with the auditors first thing in the morning. We can also ask Senator Davis if she would like to get that opinion from us, from the legal opinion. I think she would be a constitutional officer that could request that. Am I correct, Mr. Smith? Okay. Is there any other action steps that we need to take? Because like you said, at this point, you can't make a decision in a work session. At some point in time, someone will have to make a motion in an actual full council meeting to make a move at some point. So, anything else from the council before we?
So is there a way to make a motion for the next meeting to discuss this, or we can't do anything, like we're still halted till July now?
It's just a work session.
Yeah, it's just a work session. We can't make any formal, we're going to do this, but we could, we can easily put something on the agenda.
Okay, so we can still talk about it in the month of June.
Yeah, you could send you could send a request by Friday noon to Gina's office to put it on an agenda. So
Okay.
On the finance agenda, yeah.
Giving everyone a time frame.
Okay, yeah. Anything else?
I just want to thank them for coming down tonight and appreciate.
Yeah, thank you
your
guys for
input.
traveling.
Thanks, y'all.
We are all for this. It's just we're in a little bit of a conundrum, but thank you very much.
Thank you to all who are out here and discussing this again.
I
Yes,
did
yes,
want to
ma'am.
thank all y'all, and if you run into any questions through that process in the interim, I think, I understand the pickle that we've been referring to, how we got here. So I think Mr. Smith has my contact information. Y'all feel, if not, I can send it to you. I'm happy to help.
Okay.
Just in any way going forward. So thank you all.
I thank you all. Travel safe home. Thank you. All right, we will adjourn, and we're going to go right into agenda prep. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, we're going to go, so we're going to go straight into agenda prep here. So who's got our random number generator or whatever we do? What is it? Your total is 32.
Eight.
You said 8,
Mm-hmm. Second is 20.
20,
Third is 31.
31. Okay, Ms. Skelton, your first one is 8, your second is 20, and your third one is 31. This is your numbers right here. Okay, I didn't mark them on yours. I don't know what those are, but these are your numbers that he just picked. 20 and 31. Okay. Okay, all right. So, hey, Kenneth, are you going to do your thing tonight, or are you just going to sit back there all night? I'm just kidding, son. Oh, I don't even think I called this to order, did I? I apologize. Sorry about that. It's been a long night. I'll call this agenda prep meeting on June 10th, 2025 at 7:45 to order.
I'll make mine quick.
Okay.
The project we have going right now is the access road between 7th and 8th Street by DNR Railroad. It's about 70% complete. Waterloo 2nd Street project, utilities are getting moved now. So probably about mid-July is when the actual project will begin.
Okay, good.
And I was just going to say, for Prairie Creek, we did have our groundbreaking this past, Tuesday the 5th. The pre-construction is set up for next week sometime, and the utilities, as you can see, are being moved now. So
Okay.
it's kicking off. So
Thank
that's
you.
all I have.
I appreciate it. All right, we're going to have, Ms. Skelton did request a different method of choosing this because we're some of the same numbers are coming up on the random generator.
Right. All you got to do is, when you tell me we've got a match, then
Okay.
I can go to another number.
Okay, we'll do,
We'll lead it this way.
we'll do it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then next.
Yeah, next time when you get a match, just tell
Okay.
me, we'll hit it again and go to the next one. Just
All
whoever's
right.
marked off the list.
All right. We're going to we're going to have Lance Oakley and Bradley Hopkins at the airport for appointment. You will have, we'll have a fire department report. Mr. Gray, you're going to have some stuff this
Yeah,
time.
we'll have three
Yeah.
items.
Yeah, 3 items.
To bring to you.
Okay, so you're going to have, you got your police position, new civil position, then you're going to have moving restructure plan and development to fire department, and then you're going to have the IT AI policy that's going to be, which has become a law, and we're going to have to put that into our personnel policy. So we're coming into compliance there.
Yeah, and that will be a one of one.
One of
We're
one.
going to have to
So,
get that
yeah.
passed because it becomes state law August, whatever, 21st.
Yes,
or
Mr. Smith
whatever.
advised us that we would want to go one of one, and that would get us through legally. Okay. And then on unfinished old business, we will be consideration of an ordinance authorizing extension of sewer outside the city limits of the city of Russellville, Arkansas, to 1285 East Gum Street. And we do have Miss Terry Clear has requested to speak on this item. And this actually was tabled. This would be the third and final reading, and this was tabled from May 15th, 2025.
Okay.
Ms. Clear, if you would state your name for those who are at home.
Terry Clear, I'm a resident of Russellville. I just wanted to talk about the 7 Ps. Proper planning and preparation prevents painfully poor performance. Proper planning is knowing the goal that you're trying to reach, finding out which steps are necessary to reach that goal, and then consistently taking those steps until you reach it. 5 years ago, my husband and I found a parcel of land in Russellville that we planned to purchase to build our new home from the ground up. We had never done this before. We located the owner of the property and discussed the details of the purchase. Before signing a contract, I researched the utilities that I would need for the home. None were readily accessible. I contacted Summit, Entergy, and City Corporation and obtained a commitment from each that they could provide service to me. I contacted the city to verify that a septic system could be utilized and had the property perk tested. Only then did I sign the contract and complete the purchase. I designed and had a full set of plans drawn up for the house. Now, I had a career in the fire service and I'm very familiar with building construction. So I visited the construction site daily, usually twice daily, and occasionally I found deviations from the plans. However, I felt confident in the overall construction because my contractor pulled permits and city building inspections were conducted. How much more important are such inspections in multifamily construction? Building codes protect people from a wide range of hazards. The National Fire Protection Association codes encompass many safety protocols, but 5 major tenets comprise the core principles: safety from fire, safety from structural failure, safety during building use, safety from unwanted entry, and safety from hazardous materials. When building codes are followed, people are more protected against these hazards. I was present at the initial request by this builder for connection to city sewer, and his plan raised some red flags for me. Life safety is important to me, and it should be to anyone undertaking building construction. Flippantly saying that he could build a 3-unit building instead of the 7-unit building if the sewer connection is not allowed did not show any concern for the safety of future residents. Annexation and building inspections, ensuring that city codes are followed, should be required of anyone prior to authorization to connect to city infrastructure. Annexation after the fact simply benefits the owner by lowering insurance costs, while upgrading infrastructure after annexation is on the taxpayers. Growth is good, but at what cost? This request should be denied until the property is annexed and inspections can be conducted to ensure that city building codes are adhered to. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to, Mr. Haggerty is here, so I'd like to hear where he is, if he would like to. If you don't want to, that's fine, but I'd like to hear where you are on this project.
Name's Nick Haggerty, owner of 1285 East Gum Street. I've talked to most of you guys individually. I've talked the most with Richard, and from the discussions that we've had, then the biggest concern for the city is, since it is outside of jurisdiction, the city doesn't have any authority over it. I talked to Mr. Smith briefly right before this, and he said that there could be an opportunity to where I don't have to annex until after completion of the building, but I can still put something in writing to where I submit to voluntarily inspections. That way, everything could be satisfied, because the issue is not with water, but it's with making sure that the building is built up to code.
Okay, well, it is also about water, or about infrastructure, because that is on the literal edge of the city, and so the city will have to deal with that at some point, probably sooner than later. Mr. Sedian, Chief Sedian, do you have any comments on that? Because I would like, if we're entering into an agreement, then it's going to have to pass Mr. Smith's test and your test. For me, anyway.
Sure. So, yeah, just to back up. I mean, this was really just my statement that if we are going to provide city services without accountability, we just have to be careful. And what I mean by that is, there have been some subdivisions that we have extended city services before, and I've kind of mentioned we have to be careful. Because at some point, especially such as this property, very close to being right on the border of the city of Russellville, and so if you annex, you have to be careful not to annex in substandard projects. Now, if this is a single-family dwelling, moving the infrastructure out to a single-family dwelling this close is not that big a deal. When you're talking about multifamily, that's a little bit different because once you annex it in, right, it's already built, right? So you're correct. We don't have any jurisdiction over the plan review process, the permitting process, the inspection process. And so we just I've just thrown a word of caution through this whole thing. We need to be careful if we extend services without having that ability for oversight. Now, I did ask Mr. Haggerty in a conversation about why not just voluntarily annex in prior to. And there's something about, I don't know if he asked about licensing as far as general contractor. I don't know where that got to. I did encourage him to call the state licensing board to find out, what that takes or whatever to get licensing. There's no difference whether or not you build a building in the city or outside the city. It's a state law as far as general contracting, how those are applied. But anyway, I don't know exactly, to answer your question, Mr. Gray, I don't know exactly the process of us going, reviewing plans, issuing permits, doing inspections outside our jurisdiction. We may have to, I don't know how that works. Normally, we don't work outside our jurisdiction unless that jurisdiction invites us, right? So I don't know exactly how that works, but
it
the
sounds
point,
like,
go ahead.
It sounds like if he's inviting a voluntary inspection process through the project, it sounds like we are being invited, though.
Well, he's not necessarily the jurisdiction. That's more county jurisdiction. Again, this is a little bit beyond me because we've never dealt with this before. The times that we have worked outside the jurisdiction in planning areas, for example, when the Arbors was being built, right? We were asked by that owner to help them because they didn't have inspectors as part of that. But there's also some planning areas, which I know that's going to change in the future. But there are some planning areas that we do have sometimes jurisdiction over. But this is a little bit different situation. And Mr. Smith probably needs to advise us on this. I'm not really sure why we would annex after versus before, what the difference is. But anyway.
Yeah, because I don't know why we'd enter into an agreement without just annexing first. Because it leaves us, Mr. Smith, is there any agreement like that you could even make? Is that something we do? It's not in our jurisdiction, but sort of?
On annexation, just for services?
Well, no, Mr. Haggerty was suggesting some sort of like agreement that he's going to voluntarily do things like the city would require before the fact. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure, is that legal?
To have somebody go out from the city to do the inspection?
If I understood his agreement correctly, a hypothetical agreement.
Well, I think what it would take would he's submitting a set of architectural plans that gets reviewed, right, and approved, and then he applies for a building permit, pays the building permit fee, permit's issued, and then there's steps in the building process which require inspections. So I guess the question is, I don't necessarily know how we can do that outside our jurisdiction, because if I say, well, you need to do this, this, and this, do I actually have the state fire and building code behind me that says that allows me to do that outside my jurisdiction? In other words, that firewall is not built right. You need to do this. And it's like, well, you're asking him to do something outside your jurisdiction.
Yeah, my understanding, because we've had this issue before on jurisdiction, is I think that for building permits and stuff, that they go outside they can go outside our city boundaries into our planning boundary.
Right.
I remember it's because there's one part in the law that's contradictory, but there's with another part of the law. And so I think you could go out and do that, in my opinion.
And it would be legally binding?
Talk about agreeing.
Because it's hypothetical, if Chief Setting goes back out there and says this firewall is not constructed correctly, does he have the authority to say, it's a redo, man, you gotta get that up to the code to meet your agreement?
If it's under the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, yes, because it's a state code.
And Mr. Haggerty's agreed to follow these things that we set up.
If he agrees, it's even more, it's contractual at that point. I think he has it. I think the city has the authority, and then also think if he wants a contract too, then that's additional authority.
Okay.
So we could potentially modify this item that we would extend sewer, and he would voluntarily annex prior to sewer being extended. And in between, and also agreeing to, like, so were we able to modify it to where it would say, like, an additional step would be, like, he's submitting to voluntary inspections during the process, and one of the stipulations to it being extended would be a sign-off from the, building inspector.
Yeah, but the problem is if you have to follow that, they don't even have enough. Then you go, well, what about our infrastructure? Well, we don't have fire. What you're doing is you're kicking in. I just don't know if you can just say, well, partially you can just do inspections, but you can't apply the fire protection code. Like, he doesn't have enough water out there. So now I'm saying, okay, now you need to extend the water line. But what about the other parts of our process of the permit that require engineering? If it's multifamily, when does engineering kick in? Well, I don't know. Can we just say, well, we're not going to make them abide by our engineering rules as far as drainage? Well, what about the landscaping? That's part of the permit process. So I'm a little confused, if I can use that term, as far as we can do a plan review and inspections, but I just don't think there's a mechanism in place to do that. Normally, when we do building permits outside our jurisdiction, they're following something large-scale-ish that goes through planning, engineering, all these civils that you have to do, and the permit goes along with that. I just don't know if you can just do the building side of things by itself, because I'm sitting here approving something that I know doesn't even meet the fire code because it doesn't have fire protection. So I'm just saying when we extend city services, there's a lot of factors that come into play. I don't think just doing inspections is really the answer.
I thank you for that, because if you look at the topography out there, there's going to be drainage issues for sure that would have to be accounted for and engineered for.
I mean, we're going to piecemeal if we just go out there and look at the architectural and inspect. We're really piecemealing our building permit process.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how that works.
Thank you, Mr. Sadie. Anyone else have anything they want to add to that? Adam?
Haggerty, have you got anything else?
So there's not going to be any fire protection out there unless the city covers it one way or another. Either, I'll build, 2 or 3 out there and they won't have fire protection, or I can extend sewer and it won't have fire protection. So no matter what's out there, it's not going to have adequate fire protection.
Well,
But-
what if you took water, if you extended water up there as well?
I'm not going to be able to pay for water. Unless the city covers it, then, well, we can do that, but there's nothing in the budget left for that. So that's, that's not an option right now. And that's out of my budget as well, because it wouldn't make sense for me to extend water, which would be another $30,000 or $40,000 in cost. At that point, it would be more beneficial to me to stick with Tri-County Water and build 2 or 3 and put it on septic. If I do that, then it won't be inspected at all. But this way, if I build 7, then, as an agreement, then I would let it voluntarily be inspected.
I see that, but you can go build 3, and that's the end of it. But, and there's a reason you built 7 instead of 8, because that triggers a large-scale development, and, this could be tough. It's a tough, because we have to think about the future, and, the city's going that direction, and then if you do build 3, we will come in and at some point, and we'll have to fix whatever's going on out there, whether it's drainage, your neighbors getting upset, that house down below you there is gonna get a lot of water.
Right.
So I hope you account for that. So, but the city's got I got to watch out for the taxpayers and the future taxpayers. So, if you got anything else,
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Hagerty. Thank you, Mr. Sedian also. All right, moving on to item 2 will be a consideration of ordinance vacating an abandoned 20-foot alleyway between lots 12 and 13 on block 42. That's third and final reading. Item 3 is a consideration of ordinance amending the current zoning code, City of Russellville, 2443. This will be second of 3 readings. Item 4 is consideration of an ordinance amending the current land subdivision development code for the City of Russellville, adopted by ordinance 2444. Well, there's extra 4 in there, sorry. And this will be the second of 3 readings on that. Moving on to some new business will be consideration of a resolution to remove an unoccupied, dilapidated structure. Okay, this was tabled from May 15th, 2025. Mr. Sedian and I went out and met with Mr. Frankhouse. We have given him a contract and a schedule of what are the proposed steps in order to fulfill the obligations that we anticipate him having to have. At this point in time, they are waiting on title work from the previous owner. I spoke with Mr. Frankhouse today, and they do not have title work yet. Maybe he will have title work by next week, and I could have an update on that for you guys. But we
are
have
you
spoke to him.
satisfied with how this is moving forward? Because I've not been privy to how this is going forward.
Well, it's not
Now we're
moving
on
forward
2
at all.
months.
It's literally sitting there right now.
So is he
Well, that's
saying,
this is a 2-month or 3-month. It's been.
No, it's
It's at
we-
least 2 because it was April.
we finally got the gentleman out of there in April, I believe. We finally got it boarded up in April.
Okay.
And,
Well, we were clear with Mr. Frankhouse that if we're going to do something, it needs to get
Yeah.
done.
And at this point in time, he's trying to get title from the previous owner.
so is he saying that he is, like, I'm going to make these improvements, but I'm not going to sign something at this time saying I'm going to make these?
Well, he's
I'm
not.
gonna
I don't
fix
think
these
he's going
things?
to. Well, he would have to. Well, first off, he's going to have to put out a $20-something thousand deposit, I think, with the city, in order to do this. There's a required $20,000 deposit he has to put up with the city. So he won't move forward with anything until he actually has title of the property. You know, the stuff that we put forward. He has to satisfy any liens to the city, any tax liens, any other liens. He has to have put forward the performance bond or the deposit, which is required. All building permits have to be pulled. They have to be done by licensed contractors, and you have to have different inspections. First and foremost, he has to have an engineering firm go in and declare that it's repairable and give us a detailed plan of what that will. If it is going to take different things, he has to give us a detailed plan of that. Mr. Sedian and I promise you, we did our best to try to discourage that.
And all of that has to happen before he will sign the.
Well, no, He doesn't, he can sign that agreement. He can choose to get the engineer before he signs the agreement, but he would have to come up, like, he would have to put up the deposit before, well, he would sign the agreement, then put up the deposit, because he could not do that, so. However you guys want to proceed, I mean, you'll be voting on that in, you've got, you'll be voting on that next week, so. And if I have an update for you, I will have an update between now and then. I'm not 100% sure if he's even going to get clear title. I don't know. Any other questions on that? That was,
So this is the third and final reading, correct?
no, this is not, no, this is just a resolution. It's a one of one.
I was looking at the other
Yeah,
one.
usually, no,
Okay.
and this was just tabled,
Okay.
because of the circumstances. So, yeah, this is just a.
When
this-
are, how, at some point, we need to make a decision about it, though.
Yeah,
And how long are we, as the council, willing to
If this was, if
wait
this is,
around?
yeah, if this is on the agenda at the next meeting, can we make a motion to tear it down?
I'm in favor of that, but again, I want to be fair.
I mean, that's what the resolution does,
Right.
is authorize for the
We've already
the
extended more
removal.
time than we typically would.
Right, but
Right.
also I don't want to continue with
Yeah, you
into an
guys have,
agreement with someone that
it is
we've
up to
had
you,
trouble
whatever,
with in the past,
whatever
you
motion
know?
you make is.
Yeah.
When you said you were going to reach out to Mr. Frankhouse about this, when you do, would you relay to him that if the agreement is not signed by next Thursday or next Tuesday's meeting?
It is Tuesday, yes.
Next Tuesday, that's right. By next Tuesday's meeting, that at a bare minimum, he's going to need to come in here
No,
and
if
tell
he
us
doesn't have
what
title,
his
he
sort
can't
of-
enter into an agreement, so.
Yeah,
If he
so-
doesn't have title, he can't enter into an agreement, and I will have Mr. Bryant, I will inform Mr. Bryant, the owner of the property right now, of the meeting, and, that you'll be voting also. Okay? All right, item 2 and 2A is a public hearing, going to be consideration of ordinance vacating and abandoning the 10-foot of South Greenwich right-of-way adjacent to lots 6 and 7, Block 9, Oakland Heights Edition, City of Russellville. This is it's by the Planning Commission. I believe this is right next to the Church of Christ over there, 5th and Green. No, this is not the one I'm thinking about.
No. That one's later.
This is, where's this at? Miss,
This is for the new construction for Eddie Rude. He is building a triplex further
Okay.
down South Greenwich.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, I was wrong there. And then the next one is consideration resolution granting a license in land to, this is the one I'm thinking about, the West Side Church of Christ, at 5th and Greenwich Church of Christ. They're licensed to, in land for a fence around the church there. There's a Hispanic community that worships there, so.
And this is covering the alley.
Yeah.
There is a sewer line that goes through the alley. It's unopened. They have been mowing the property, and they're just wanting to put the
Yeah.
fence up.
So there's nothing the city,
It's not connected
no
to.
interest to the city?
No, ideally, we'd like to vacate it, but we would still keep an easement for the sewer line. So they're just gonna do a fence and easement form and have this license in land.
Okay.
At Planning Commission,
So that, yeah, it goes to this council meeting. Yes, it goes to vote. Yes, yeah, it goes, yeah, okay. I apologize. So we're good with any other questions on anything? Okay. No, we were talking about item 1. They'd gone back to item 1, make sure it was going to stay on.
so we're going to put a fence there, and they indicated that Citicorp would have access.
Yes, they said that they would have a gate so that
Okay.
Citicorp has access to the sewer line.
So are they going to keep, because they've also mentioned that they need it for security and whatnot. So are they going to keep the gate unlocked so that Citicorp could get back there?
I can find out if it will be unlocked or if it would be locked. My understanding really is they're just gonna keep it closed so that kids aren't running
Yeah.
out. They're safe in the yard when they're playing while people are out there. They just don't want the kids to be able to have free access to the streets.
And license on land means that they would, if they have to dig up the sewer line, then there's no cost to City Corp or ourselves, so. All right. Anyone else have anything for the good of the group?
I say we could have another meeting. Let's have something else.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going.
Thank you for that, I believe that's the longest one. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, we're not going, that's not on, we can put that on finance, yeah, but well, then we submit the form to Gina before Friday to put it on finance, yeah. Yeah, all right, we will adjourn. Yeah, we have, in order to get it on finance, you have to submit a form to Gina. We can do that. Yeah, or I can, if